Yay, yay. No. In all seriousness, welcome to the Heavy Sweater Podcast. This is the ASMR version of the podcast. I'm just kidding. Hey, welcome to the Heavy Sweater Podcast. My name is John King. If this is your first time listening, this is the Heavy Sweater Podcast. It's a deep dive into the beginnings of musicians and bands of the heavy variety. This week on the podcast, we have Duxs Newton, part Paladin. It's a solo project from, I think he said he's from the Blue Mountains area, Sydney. We'll just say Sydney. It's not. It's New South Wales. Great guy, easy to talk to, great musician. I fuck with what he does. His music is so sick. So yeah, go check him out wherever you listen to music. He'll be putting out new music very soon, from what I've been seeing. So yeah, we recorded this about a month ago. This is the last one of the ones I had banked up from February-ish time. So yeah, you won't hear me talking about having COVID anymore or playing a certain big show. I'm over that now because it's March now. It's March 21st. No, it's not. It's March 19th of recording this. I'm a fucking idiot. You know the deal. This is where I say the catchphrase, it's Sunday, and you know what that means. Now the music plays. Or however the fuck it goes. Music, go! Hey man, how you doing?
Good. How are you, John?
Yeah, fucking chilling.
Nice.
Yeah. Sick, man. Well, we'll get into everything with like heavy music for you and like the very beginning. Like, what's the first sort of heavy-ish band you remember hearing and being like, oh, that's pretty cool?
Yeah, God, it goes back a way. Probably when I was like a kid, really young,
Yeah, yeah.
like pretty typical, I guess. Probably hearing Akadaka and like Rose Tattoo, stuff
Okay.
that had all these mad vinyls of kind of like old pub rock stuff. And even then, I remember being like, "Yeah, this is pretty. What is this black magic? I need to get my hands on some of this stuff."
Sick.
Um, so yeah, started out kind of with that stuff and grew up with a bunch of like eclectic music and world music, some weird folk stuff that my parents were into.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess like in high school is where I kind of kicked off my newfound love for like heavier stuff and um, probably like a lot of people of like my generation, I guess, and a bit older,
Yeah.
got into bands like Rage
Yeah.
very early on. And I kind of missed. I didn't really go down the kind of emo punk like hardcore path. I was probably more of a new metal kid, to be honest,
Okay.
growing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. That's fair.
So yeah, like after Rage, I guess I kind of grew into stuff like things that were big in the early 2000s, like Limp Bizkit, System of a
Yeah.
Down, Slipknot, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, which still kicks to this day, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I
Fuck
listen
oath.
back to some of those records and like, man, there's a lot to be said about Limp Bizkit, but fuck me, they can make a record. Like,
Yeah. Those first three albums were like on fucking fire.
yeah, absolutely.
So sick.
And yeah, like the Prejudice was a bit of a joke there, but
Yeah.
like the $1 Bill album
Yeah.
is still incredible, like the musicianship of some of those albums and Corn and stuff like that. So yeah, went through that phase and then were kind of kicked around with some cover bands in high school and doing all that kind of thing, and probably got introduced to some sort of more um, intricate, darker kind of music. And a brother of a guy that was in a band at the time showed me Tool,
Okay.
and I just fell in love with it then, and they're still my favorite band today. Um,
Sick.
yeah, so I got into a bunch of that stuff, and then from there it's like opened up a whole bunch of like metalcore, and then tech metal and math metal, and
Yeah. Yeah.
all that kind of good stuff. So it's been a journey.
Fuck yeah. To go back to new metal, you fuck with Crazy Town?
I didn't know. I thought I was aware of them. I felt like that
Man.
was too like daytime MTV
Oh yeah,
music.
yeah, for sure.
Like,
They're trash. It's so funny.
yeah. But there is some of that like old school new metal genre, which was just way too cliche
Yeah, yeah.
and rubbish for me. Like,
Once it got too big, it was like almost like pop music with down-tuned guitars.
yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
right. And I think like a lot of people put bands into the new metal category, like Three Doors Down and
No, they're butt rock.
3 Days Grace. Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
Which for me, that wasn't like, there's a good new metal and there's bad new metal.
Yeah. Bad new metal is still very funny.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
There's a podcast I listen to every now and then called The Roach Coach, and they like go through new metal albums and like try to find what's canon for new metal.
Yeah, got it.
It's so good. They do one with Tommy Lee's side project, Methods of Mayhem.
Okay.
It is so incredible because that album is poo. It's so bad.
So is it like verifying what true new metal heads classify as new metal? Or?
Yeah. So like they'll just listen to like any band that has like a subgenre of new metal as like their Wikipedia tag, and then they'll just listen to an album and be like, is this new metal? And why it's not or why it is. Yeah, it's sick.
For sure. Yeah, nice. I might have to check that out. Actually, it's interesting. It's a fairly bleak period as well in like the history of heavier music, but there's some gold that came out of it. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but that was probably my entry into kind of like, heavier, darker stuff, and kind of went from there.
Yeah, sick. Fuck yeah. And then you were saying you were in like cover bands and shit in high school, but before that, like, was it those new metal bands? And if so, which band in particular made you be like, maybe I can play music too?
I reckon so I was a guitarist. Still I'm a guitarist, but I started playing guitar before doing anything else.
Okay.
Kind of like quite young in primary school, but then took it seriously in high school. But
yeah,
it was probably like, I reckon Tom Morello from Rage was like,
fuck yeah,
where I was like, yeah, I want to do this properly, and I want to try and do what this guy does, and figured out bought myself a shitty cheap whammy pedal and tried to do everything he did. And,
fuck yes.
So I reckon Rage was the kickoff point for me for that kind of like heavier style of guitar playing at least, and then I went from there. But like even like as I said, the musicianship in some of those earlier new metal albums like Korn and the Biscuit, they're incredible players, and say whatever you want about new metal, but each individual like band member in those bands are just like on their own right the best in the field sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely tried to mimic all those guys, and but yeah, like as I got a bit more experimental and kind of got a bit more into like alternative darker stuff, I got heaps into Time Signatures, and Meshuggah became one of my favorite bands, and they still are.
Oh yes.
But yeah, like just trying to emulate some of the things that those guys did early on.
Kind
of inspired me for sure.
I think I've said something like that similar in like a previous podcast of like when you're a kid and you're just like figuring out how a guitar works. Like if you don't have lessons, you're just like figuring it out on your own. Like your first few songs that you like quote unquote write are essentially just rip-offs of like songs you listen to.
Oh, exactly, man. Yeah, that's right. And there is a fine line between like being influenced by something and writing the same song yourself, But definitely when you're young, it's like, how do I do a Rage track, or how do I do like a Blink track or something, and that's where people start for sure.
Yeah, and I think like helps with like writing later on and figuring out like song structures and what style you prefer to play, like opposed to just being like, I listen to all this, but what do I actually prefer to play?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's good testing ground for where you are as like a writer, and like I'll still do it to this day, to be honest. Like if I'm writing a new track, obviously you're influenced by a lot of different things, but at times you kind of sit down and study a song, and you kind of like, where would this person take it here, and kind of taking influence from that structure and the kind of how they build a song, super helpful as well.
Yeah, because there's so many ways to do it now. Like with my band, I'm like, for ages I was like, I hate choruses. Fuck choruses. We're not doing choruses. It's just riffs on riffs and breakdowns, and it's gonna be sick. But now I'm like, I'm sort of like breaking down to it. I'm like, I can only write so many cool riffs. Like,
exactly.
Where do I go from here now? But
yeah, for sure. And I think like discovering, when you're young and you're writing stuff, and you are like trying to some degree be like other people, you kind of like indulge yourself a bit in that mad breakdown that you write, or that clever thing that you write, and you do it for like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
But you listen to people who are good at it, and it's like if they do something clever or something huge, it's like an Easter egg. They do it for like a couple of bars and it's gone, and that's why it's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all growth, I guess. Like,
Yeah. No, I
trying to figure out.
definitely learned that mistake very quickly. Now I'm like, oh, 20 seconds of this part, that's too long. Fuck.
Yeah, exactly. No, totally agree.
That's sick, man. And then like, so from guitar, that's the first thing you play. And then you're in cover bands, but like, what's your first introduction into like the like local heavy scene?
Yeah, so like in high school and probably just after high school, I was in a couple of bands, and we wrote a few things, but it was mainly covers of those kind of like, you know, early new metal and heavy rock kind of bands.
Yeah.
And then just after high school, I started a band with a few mates, and we were around for a bit, like into our kind of early 20s,
Okay.
so 5 years or so. And that was a full-on project. Like we wrote our own stuff and recorded, and but when we were starting, we didn't have a vocalist. We were hunting forever to find one, and we kind of knew what we wanted, but couldn't find anyone. Like I grew up in the Blue Mountains, so we're all from there, and it's a pretty small community, especially for people into heavy kind of music. So to find a vocalist to suit it, it's a bit of a tricky situation. So I'd always only been a guitarist, and I kind of heeded the call, I guess. I was like, I've never really sung before, and I don't know how this is going to go, but I gave it a go. I just like fucked around for a week at home just to get the confidence to present it to the band, and kind of went from there. But I was just singing then. I didn't really start screaming for a while after that, and even that takes forever to get a technique right and not burn your vocal cords out, and for it to sound good at the same time.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
it took a while, but yeah.
You got there. You did it.
Got there.
Sick. That's crazy, man. That's like that classic, like doing things in your band because you like have to for it to carry on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Which is sick.
When you're young and you got no money and stuff, when you try to record and tour, you don't have a label or a manager. You do all that stuff yourself, like everything, and it's frustrating at times, but you kind of learn how the industry works as well. It's like a crash course in
definitely
the music industry. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess. But yeah, you're right. Trying to fill those gaps when you're sort of young and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
you do have to step up to the plate, I guess, musically especially. So yeah, it was probably a good thing that my band didn't have a singer at the time, because I might not have given it a go otherwise.
Yeah. No, that's sick, man. That's so good. And then like that went for, you were saying, about 5 years roughly. And then from there, where do you go after that?
From there, like there was, so basically that band that I was in, we kind of thought we were going to give it a good crack, and then put a lot of time and energy into it, and then it just kind of disbanded naturally. Like people got jobs and moved overseas and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of fell away, and then I didn't do much at all for ages, to be honest. Like I just mucked around. I did some session guitar work for people, but apart from that, I was pretty dormant, like creatively. And just did things at home, but just in my spare time, and no one would hear it, sort of thing. So it wasn't until like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, that I decided I wanted to kick it off again and try and like create again. And it was really because of lockdown, like 2020. I was bored as shit at home and nothing else to do really. I was just like, all right, I better get my gear back together and see if I can put something out there into the world again.
Yeah, that's sick. You're still in like New South Wales?
Yeah, I'm in Sydney.
Yeah. And Sydney got hit like so hard. I'm in Brisbane, and like Brisbane was the most chill state of all of COVID lockdowns. They were like, just stay inside if you want, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't know what was going on up there when I heard all the news reports, because she was for a while there, it was like no one was allowed out or in.
The borders were closed except for transport and essential workers, but like anyone in Brisbane could just do whatever the fuck they wanted, unless they got COVID. Then it was like stay home for a bit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And now it's like it's a free for all. It's fucked.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're like, you don't have to check in, and you only have to show your vaccination passport if you're asked, and yeah,
Yeah, got
it's
it.
fucking
Okay.
wild. Yeah,
But yeah, no, you're right. Sydney was, I mean, Melbourne as well.
yeah,
They
they
know
got
what
hit
true
hard.
lockdown means.
Yeah,
But Sydney this year, or yeah, sorry, this year and last year's been pretty full on. But
yeah,
it was a good opportunity to do those things again, like find a project and get back into music and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
That's sick. Fuck yeah. So like, it all just sparked up because you were just stuck at home, bored as shit.
yeah, pretty much, man. Like I've
That's so
been,
sick.
yeah, like I'd sort of always written music and been known to play music and stuff, around with my friends and
Yeah,
people I
yeah,
knew. So it was partly boredom and also partly like for years people have been like, "What are you doing, man? You should be doing something, like
yeah,
put
yeah.
something out there." And yeah, so it was a culmination of those things, I guess, that finally just made me go, "All right, I'm gonna start recording again." And yeah, really kicked off in 2020 and then released a single in January last year, 2021.
Yeah.
But that was more sort of like, for me, it was just to get something up and out, and I didn't really care if anybody heard it or not. It was just for me to kind of have something in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it took me another year to write another song, but I finally got it out, and I've definitely given this one a bit more of a push because I just, I'm treating it more like a proper project now than it's just a bedroom recording thing.
Yeah.
So just trying to see what the world thinks and get it in front of people to enjoy it as well.
I think that's a good idea, man. Like, because the first single comes from like a super pure place of like, I don't care if anybody hears it, this is for me, which is like probably the best place to be writing music from, opposed to being like, I've got to write more music. But then like
Yeah, yeah,
realizing afterwards that like you want to take it more seriously again, and then pumping more into the second single.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think it's a good attitude to have anyone anyway for anyone releasing music. It should be about yourself first and foremost, and
For sure.
just like you should be happy with it, and if you're happy with it, that's all that matters. But definitely had that mentality moving into like the single I just released a few weeks ago. Sorry,
Yeah.
but giving it, I guess, more opportunity to breathe and giving it the chance to be heard too, because I'm super happy with it and super proud of it. So yeah, just trying to get it out into the universe. So like I said, other people can kind of enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into like the sort of the meanings behind both these tracks because like they're fucking sick. I was listening to them the other day. They're both super cool tracks. So do you want to
Awesome,
go
man.
into
Thank
like
you.
both songs and like what they mean to you and lyrically and all that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so the first single, "The Rise and the Fall," is like your stock standard breakup song, to be
Yep.
honest. Yeah, like, and a little bit about 2020. Going through a breakup in lockdown was pretty rough, but sort of, I guess, overall, it's about like the ebbs and flows of life and just how things come and go and trying to find a steady line between all that kind of mayhem.
Yeah.
And I guess like musically for me, it was the first time I I guess professionally put something out there. So it was a bit of a testing ground. It was like I write everything myself and I do pretty much all of it myself, except for like I'd send it off to mix and master, final mix and master.
Yeah.
But this first track was everything at home, and it's great. And I'm really happy. I'm still proud of it. But you can kind of hear, I think that you can hear in it that it's still kind of figuring the genre out and figuring out where I want to sit like sonically.
Okay.
But yeah, so Kadal, which is the track I've released just a couple of weeks ago, is a bit of a step up, like writing in terms of writing for me. Like I spent a lot of time and energy kind of trying to figure out how to make what I had in my head come out in full in the final product. So got a drummer involved this time and
Sick.
another guy on cello, just for that atmosphere.
Yeah.
And yeah, lyrically, it's about, I guess, a disconnect from heritage. at its core. So I'm a Torres Strait Islander on my dad's side, but grew up away from that world and away from that culture. So it's sort of about trying to retain that like missing links in my like lineage, I guess, and coming to terms with and being okay with the fact that I didn't grow up with that culture, but I guess like also a want to kind of get back to it at some point in life. And overall, I guess it's sort of a beckoning for culture to come back, but yeah, being at peace with myself, and also finding a home at this, like, you know, a concept of being whole once you've found and kind of are okay with who you are and where you've come from.
Yeah, that's fucking incredible, man.
Yeah, cheers, dude.
Fuck, that's so like sick. I'm like sort of blown away, like the depth of like that and your experience with that. That's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been something I've wanted to write about for a while, but haven't really had the avenue to do it. So I guess I was waiting for years when I was waiting for a band to come along so I could finally write and get a lot of these things out. But eventually, you know, like we've talked about, I said, oh, fuck it, I'll do it myself. So it's good to get that kind of stuff out on paper and then out musically as well.
For sure.
So it's pretty, I guess it's a pretty deep personal subject. It's not light material, but it was important for me to kind of get it out there for sure.
Definitely, man. And like from all you've said so far about Paladin is like it's for you by you. So like if that's how you feel about like your identity and everything like that, like who's going to stop you from saying how you feel?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, you're right. And I think like we're saying with releasing music, it's a blessing that other people are into it or interested in it or dig it. But at the end of the day, it's like a project for me, and to get the music out there, but also to get those themes out there, just feels really kind of fulfilling. Definitely stoked of the final result for sure.
Yeah, that's sick. And if anybody doesn't like it, music's subjective and they can go fuck themselves.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Fortunately, there's been some love out there in the world so far.
Yeah, definitely, man.
No bad criticism, but yeah, no, you're
that's
right.
Good. That's so sick. Fuck yeah, man. That's so sick. Fuck. And then what's next?
Yeah, so I think like procrastination is my worst enemy. Like it took me a year between tracks, and partially because things in life, working and moving and all that boring stuff, but also I kind of ebb and flow of in creativity. So I'll pack my gear away for a reason, and then I won't unpack it for months. So I'm trying to stay on the ball this time. So now that there's something out there and people are enjoying it and starting to make some moves, I'm going to keep that ball rolling. And so I'm writing another song, trying to have that done within like a month or two. And then, just take it from there. I guess I'm just going to keep on writing and put out a few tracks and then see where it takes me, maybe look for an EP or something later in the year or early next year. And but I guess it's hard. It's a blessing and a curse being a solo, inverted commas solo artist, because all your ideas get on the table. You can do what you want with it. The finished product is yours, so whatever comes of it and how it sounds at the end is like 110% more fulfilling. But also you're stuck. There's no one to keep you online, there's sort of, and also there's no one to bounce ideas off. Like you can send it to mates and all that kind of stuff, but it's a slower process, I think, from production and creative point of view, because you are, I am anyway, I'm sure a lot of people are your own worst critic too. So even if you've written something that sounds amazing, you think it's garbage, you say throw it away, and the opposite too. So
it's the classic musician thing, man. Like always self-deprecating. Like I'll write something, I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool, and I'll listen to it next time. I'm like, this is fucking trash. What the fuck? Who did this?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I can totally relate. It's almost like doing something stupid when you're pissed, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, "What have I done here?"
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what is this absolute nonsense? But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just about like refining that process and figuring out how to produce yourself
Yeah.
too, and not and also not being overly critical. So kind of letting some things just out or pass through the checkpoints, I guess,
Yeah.
just because it feels good to play, even if you're not sure about. Um, yeah, so working on pumping out another track soon-ish, and then
Sick.
see what comes from there.
Cool. Well, fuck yeah. I'm keen to hear it. Whatever comes next, I'm keen to hear.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, appreciate it.
Sick. Well, we'll get into like the last question, and then I'll get out of your hair.
Sure.
You've already mentioned one of them, but like, what are your top 5 favorite bands of all time?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I feel like it kind of actually no, that's a lie. No, it doesn't. I was about to say it changes a lot, but it doesn't because I'll come back to these bands like no matter what. Um, I think my music tastes change a lot, as everybody's does. So you kind of go in and out of genre, or you kind of go down a rabbit hole exploring a different genre.
Yeah.
Um, but I'd have to say Tool definitely number one. That hasn't changed. Alexa's on Fire up
Oh,
there as well for me.
fuck yes. So good.
Yeah, yeah. Just I was super influenced by them. And they're just an incredible band. But Dallas Green, especially vocally, is one of my favorite vocalists.
Such a good vocalist.
Um,
All 3 of them.
yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, they're incredible. Meshuggah too are in
Yep.
there. Carnival would be in there
Okay,
as
fuck yeah,
well.
sick.
And trying to think of a fifth. Yeah, it changes. I mean, for a long time there, it was kind of like honoring my new metalish roots, and Incubus, one of my favorite bands for a
Oh
very long time.
yes.
And
Sick.
like I still listen to like Science, and I mean all their albums are good, but those
Yeah.
earlier heavier albums are solid still. Yeah, so I might put Incubus in there because they're a band that I can always come back to.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've gotten heavy over time, and I'm super into like actually August Burns Red be contender as well.
Okay, fuck yeah, sick. Throw them in
Yeah,
as
so
an honorable mention.
honorable mention, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sick.
Yeah.
Cool, man. That's so sick. And like to go back to what you said just then, like you've gotten heavier over time. I think that's just like the progression until you find out where you sit in like what you prefer to listen to. Cause like I started with emo music and then like a year later I'm listening to like Cradle of Filth and like Bleeding Through and shit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is sick. And then like Crabcore comes along and I'm like, oh, maybe that's cool. And now I'm
Yeah,
like
got it.
heavily into hardcore. I'm like, yeah, this is comfortable for me.
Yeah, okay, cool. Like
Yeah.
old school hardcore or new age hardcore?
Oh, like both. I'll listen to like old Terror like albums and shit, and then like a Froth Incendiary. Kubla Khan
Yeah,
is
nice.
so sick.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I went through a bit of a period there of like Madball and
Oh yes.
that kind of like New York
Yeah, yeah.
90s scene.
So fucking good.
Yeah.
Madball slap.
Yeah, 100%.
Fuck yeah, man. Thanks for doing the podcast.
Yeah, dude, no worries. Thanks so much for the time.
It's all good. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, John. You too.
And we're done for another week. Huge thank you to Duxs for doing the podcast. Fucking like I said in the beginning, really fucking sick chat, really good dude. Easy to talk to. That was our first time talking. And a huge fucking shout out to Tim Price of the Faction and Collision course for hooking this one up. Check out Part Paladin wherever you listen to music. It's on all streaming services. Go check him out on Facebook and Instagram, Part Paladin. It's really fucking good shit. Yeah, and if you like what I'm doing over here with the podcast, please like it on Facebook, follow on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, tell a friend if you like it. If you think I'm a fucking idiot, tell your friend to listen to me so you can make fun of me without me knowing about it, because that's still a listen, I guess. It's not a nice listen, but it's still a listen. Yeah, because this just helps the scene, really. Like, this is a platform for bands to come and express themselves and the music that they like, that got them into music, because we're all the same fucking person. No, we're not. We're not all the same person, but we all come from similar backgrounds. We're all the weird kids from high school that got made fun of for the music we listened to or the clothes that we wore or painting our nails or straightening our hair. Like, we're all very, very similar in that aspect. So, like, why not build each other up and support each other? Follow it on Instagram and like it on Facebook at Heavy Sweater Podcast. And, yeah. Also, Shokan, my band. We're doing some shows again. We're playing 31st of March at King Lear's with Sentiment, Native Tongue, and Insect. And then we're playing the next night, April 1st. It's not a joke, this is a real show. 11 Dive Bar with Dissect, our fucking boys. Dissect, Shokan, crossover collab. Hit me up about it. Yeah, so Dissect on their Snake Eater weekend. We're playing with them, Native Tongue, Dead Nerve, and Shokan, obviously, because we're going to be playing that. Yep, this is a live read, by the way. And then the next night, April 2nd, Vinny's Dive Bar on the Gold Coast, Dissect, Dead Nerve, Xenochrist, Native Tongue, and Shokan. Links to tickets are in Shokan's link tree, so hit up Shokan Band on Instagram or dissect.au for links. Anyway, next week, new guest, you know the deal, every week, working my fucking ass off. Come back for a new episode. It's going to be a fucking good one. They're all good ones. I'm proud of everything I've done on this podcast. So come back next week for a new episode. Thanks.